He told me he'd wait forever, so why had he proposed to someone else while still loving me? 10 years. That's how long I believed I knew Paul inside and out. Sometimes I wish I could pinpoint the exact moment my certainty pivoted into confusion. But if I've learned anything, it's that betrayal never marches up the front steps. It seeps under the door, slow and quiet. The first time I met Paul was in the shade of our old high school's bleachers, senior year. He offered me half of his sandwich, not knowing I was. He laughed when I told him and apologized, then said, "Well, I owe you a dinner." That was the start. Simple, earnest, almost sweetly awkward. We fell in slow, bright phases. He was gentle and steady, the one who always remembered my birthday, who'd drive half an hour to help me move a bookcase, or just to drop off flowers on a rainy day. You hear stories of high school sweethearts that flame out, but we rode out college. Job changes, long distances, even the first years of that messy adulthood space where silences grow and priorities tangle. We survived it all, I thought. By 28, I'd mapped out our future. Small wedding by a lake, someday a rescue dog, dancing in our kitchen. Paul always said, "We're forever, Em. Whatever else comes first, it's us." He'd say it after happy fights and tragic ones, holding my hand until I believed him. I held to that. I built my life around. So, when his text started slowing down, when his Saturday mornings got busy, when he stopped looping our fingers together at parties, I told myself it was just adult, not that anything deeper could be happening. Paul promised forever after all. Didn't that mean something? Looking back, the first real crack appeared at Ethan's wedding. We got an invitation with gold foil corners and his girlfriend's careful handwriting. 2 seats saved for you and Paul. I could still hear her voice on the phone. "Don't be weird, okay? I know Paul hates big weddings, but you two are a package deal." At the reception, Paul was distant, not hostile, but not boisterous the way he'd been at our friends' parties in college. I remember an odd moment, him glancing at his phone during the best man's speech, eyes flicking to a name I didn't recognize. "Just work," he said when I nudged, but he slipped the phone into his jacket pocket like it might burn. Later, watching newlyweds circle in their first dance, I whispered, "Do you ever picture this?" He smiled softly. Sadly, I knelt. "Of course," he said, and brushed his lips against my temple, almost apologetic. "Just not right now, Em. Soon, I promise." I tried to hold on to that, clutching the shape of his promise, even as the feeling faded. The next few months were a slow spiral of almosts and excuses. I tried suggesting weekend trips. He always had deadlines. Our shared apartment, 2 bedrooms because I liked space to create, was still neat, but his side of the closet grew empty. I'd laugh about it, joking that he just hated folding laundry. The real answer felt too dangerous to name. Little things began to stack up. A mysterious money transfer out of our joint account. I just owed a buddy. He refused to say who. A receipt for 2 at a French bistro I'd never heard of. Client dinner, he insisted. Once, I came home to find his watch missing. He said the battery was dead. Through all this, whenever I pressed, he'd say, "Em, I love you. You know that, right? Just let me get through this busy patch. We're still forever." I tried to believe it. My best friend Kat saw through my act quicker than I did. She cornered me on a run one evening, our sneakers pounding the river trail, and said, "You're not sleeping. You're jumpy. What's going on, Em?" I tried to laugh it off. A busy season at work for both of us, I claimed. But Kat held up her hands, blocking my path. "He hasn't posted you once in 4 months. Seriously, girl? The last time he went 2 weeks without a stupid couple selfie, he had the flu. Are you okay?" I wanted to say yes. Instead, what came out was, "I don't know." Kat hugged me anyway, sweat and all. "You don't have to muscle through this alone. You're allowed to need people too." For the first time, I let her drive me home, curl up with me on the couch, and watch bad reality TV with our phones on airplane mode. I didn't look at Paul's last seen timestamp. I let myself forget, for a few hours, that I was waiting for someone who hadn't truly arrived in months. It was a Tuesday in early summer when I noticed the change. I'd expected Paul home by 8. I'd made his favorite, chickpea curry, with too much garlic, my secret gift for his sinus problems. The clock inched past 9 p.m. No call, no text. He came in at 10:30, shoulders tight, jaw set. His eyes, usually the darkest, softest brown, looked glassy. "Car breakdown," he said. "Sorry, long day. You didn't have to wait up." The lie sat between us, heavy as a river stone. For the first time, I couldn't even pretend his excuse was for me. We slept back to back. That night, a storm battered the city. I lay awake, watching shadows flicker on our bedroom ceiling, and wondered how much of my life was just waiting for a different version of Paul. At 3 a.m., I got up and checked his phone. I know how that sounds. I'd never done it before, but some scrap of self-preservation or suspicion pushed me. The messages were not damning at first, but then I found her. Her name was Erica, not hidden, just out of focus, a contact he had muted. Mostly, their messages were work-appropriate. Meeting times, calendar invites, a few scattered, "Thanks again, I owe you," and a photo of a latte art heart. But then I scrolled up, and things shifted. Midnight messages, inside jokes, one that stung. "You always make me feel seen. When I'm with you, I'm home." I stared at the screen until tears blurred everything. My memory wanted to fill in blanks that weren't there. Was it emotional? Was it more? Did it matter? I slipped the phone back, hands shaking. I spent the rest of the night on the couch, feeling the apartment empty itself out, piece by piece, until all that was left was the noise of the storm and my own heart pounding. Kat didn't say, "I told you so." She just listened, her brow knit in worry, making angry noises whenever I recounted the softer, sharper things Paul said to Erica. "Do you think it's physical?" I whispered, like it would make a difference. Kat put down her mug. "Physical or not, Em. He's building a new home somewhere else. That's enough." I tried to hate Paul for for it. I really did. But mostly, I felt small, like some backup plan, a shadow in my own life. Paul didn't confront me. Maybe he sensed what I'd done. But even as we went through the motions, dishes, bills, separate dinners at the same table, something in the air had curdled. One morning, I found him on the balcony, staring at the blue slice of sky above the city. He turned when I opened the door. We're not the kids under the bleachers anymore, are we? The words hung there, too heavy to answer. I love you, Em, he said quietly. But sometimes love isn't enough. I wanted to scream, to beg, to say all the things you practice saying to the dark. But all that came out was, "Are you leaving?" His eyes flicked away. "I don't know," he whispered. "I don't want to, but I'm so lost." We ate breakfast, side by side, quiet, the space between our chairs split by invisible fissures. And then the text came. Not from Paul, from Kat. "Did you know Paul's tagged in a photo with someone named Erica at a ring store?" My blood went cold. I tapped the link, hands numb. There he was, laughing with his arms slung around Erica's waist, a sales rep grinning in the background, velvet ring boxes gleaming in the fluorescent light. My heart stopped. Then, with ice clarity, reality snapped into focus. Paul, holding hands with another future. What do you do when the person you thought you'd spend forever with chooses someone else, while still telling you he loves you? I should have screamed, thrown some, broken down in the foyer, or at the very least called Paul at work and demanded the truth. But all I felt was a chill, a numb, glassy feeling settling just beneath my skin, as if shock had solidified my organs one by one. The image of Paul and Erica at that jewelry counter refused to leave me. I replayed every smile, every shadow in the grainy photo, looking for some sign that it wasn't as bad as it looked. Maybe he was just being supported. Maybe it was an elaborate misunderstanding. But the way his fingers laced into hers, no, there was no playing small with the truth anymore. Kat texted me again, filling the void I left in my silence. "Em, I'm so sorry. Want me to come over?" I replied, "Just give me tonight. I need to think," and dropped my phone on the ottoman. The apartment was hushed, but not peaceful. Just that awful stillness you get before a storm. Paul didn't come home until late. When I heard his keys jingle in the lock, adrenaline surged. Fight or flight, but my body did neither. I sat frozen on the couch, the light of the TV flickering over photos of the two of us that still lined the bookcase. Smiling, infinite, forever. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching me. "Hey," he said, voice too soft. I turned the TV off. "I saw the picture, Paul." It took him a second. I watched the cogs turn behind his eyes. He stiffened, just a shade, and fumbled to set his messenger bag down. "Em, listen, are you engaged?" I didn't shout. I didn't trust myself to. He laughed, humorless. "No, God, no. Her sister made some comment about rings and we went to look. That's all it was." He didn't meet my eyes. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to so badly, but the old wires of our trust had frayed. I could see the fear and guilt flicker behind his defenses. "Do you love her?" I asked, and my voice cracked on the last word. Paul's eyes drifted to the ceiling, searching for some language that didn't make him the monster of his own story. "I care about her," he said, almost in a whisper. "But Em, us has always been the most real thing I've ever had." A sick heat bloomed in my chest. "Then why, if I'm so real to you, why are you building another life at the ring counter?" He pressed his palms to his eyes and let out a long, ragged breath. "I don't know how to stop being lost." That was the closest thing to an answer I got. The next few days passed in a grind of avoidance. Him waking up early, slinking home late, leaving a trail of apologies in sticky notes on the fridge. I withdrew, retreated into work, declined Kat's invitations for coffee, spent hours wandering the reservoir in the city park, just trying to catch up with myself. Everything I owned felt contaminated by memory. Even my favorite mug, Paul's annual Valentine's Day gift, felt sharp-edged and bitter in my hand. I tried to dig for anger, some righteous fury, but all I unearthed was grief and a gnawing feeling that I'd missed 1,000 small warnings. When did his goodnight text stop? When did I start apologizing for my own loneliness? Brushing it off as clingy instead of naming it for what it was, a call he'd stopped answering. After a week of tense, wordless passing in our shared space, I called my dad. He always listened, never said move on or give him another chance. He just hummed through the hard parts, and after a long pause, said, "When you build a life around someone, it's easy to forget your own boundaries. Maybe now's the time to relearn what you need." The next morning, I packed a suitcase. Not everything, just enough. Paul was in the shower. For a hysterical moment, I considered slipping out without a word, but that's not who I am, even bruised. I perched on the bed until I heard the water shut off. He emerged in a towel, startled to see me awake. Suitcase at my feet. "Are you leaving?" he murmured. "For now," I said. "Please don't call. If you care about me, just don't." He closed his eyes and nodded, jaw so tight I thought he might shatter. He didn't try to hug me. He just let me walk away, and I didn't look back. I moved in with Kat. She carved out space in her apartment, made up her lumpy couch with clean sheets, and insisted I order takeout every night until I could eat real food again. I slept badly, dreamed in looping sticky patterns, Paul's hand in Erica's, the velvet ring box, his desperate not quite apology echoing in my head. Other friends reached reached out, but I demurred, ashamed of how completely I'd let my happiness collapse around a future that had never existed. Weeks crawled by. I deleted old photos and clusters, unsubscribed from all our couple accounts, boxed up every souvenir of our travels. A year of movie stubs and Christmas cards and inside jokes, gone in 3 black garbage bags. One night while Kat was out, Paul called. The screen lit up with his name. My heart flipped. My thumb hovered over decline, but I answered. I'm sorry. 3 words. Hollow, but strangely honest. I'm so lost, he repeated, softer. I know, I said, but you don't get to look for me in someone else anymore. There was a long silence. Then, quietly, will you ever forgive me? I wanted revenge, or at least the dignity of a clean break, but my voice shook with a kind of gentle finality. I hope someday I do, but not for you, Paul, for me. But weeks turned to months. I felt my old self, tougher, sharper, beautifully flawed, growing back at the edges. I took solo walks, started painting again, called my sister just to laugh about dumb TV. One Saturday, I went to an indie movie alone and didn't text Paul about it. I danced at Kat's birthday party, let myself be hugged, screamed Mr. Brightside with a room full of women who'd all had their hearts broken at least once. Kat messaged me from work one afternoon. Did you see? Paul's engaged to Erica. She posted the news. My stomach didn't drop. It was just a fact. A little cold prickle. Nothing more. I didn't want him back anymore. I wanted, finally, myself. Looking back, I keep coming back to his words. We're forever, Em. Whatever else comes first, it's us. I know now that forever isn't a promise. It's a choice, made again and again in the daylight, not the shadows. I choose me now. When I say I wanted myself, I mean it in ways I couldn't have imagined during those first hollow weeks after leaving Paul. If my previous self had still existed out there, a version of me in another universe, I picture her soft around the edges, waiting for crumbs of reassurance. Now, every new morning forced me to practice reality on my own terms. In the months that unfurled after Paul's engagement, it felt as if the universe was determined to show me life didn't freeze alongside heartbreak. Seasons changed. Kat met someone new, a sweet, awkward pediatrician named Jamie, who brought her wildflowers and left sticky notes in the bathroom for her to find. There were small joys. A sunbeam that stretched over Kat's kitchen counter while I made coffee. New lipstick I bought on a whim. The sight of strangers laughing so hard at brunch, their drinks almost toppled. At first, it felt like the world was mocking me with its ordinariness. The stoplights changed, buses honked. The barista at my old cafe still asked, room for oat milk? Even though Paul and I weren't that couple anymore. There was a time I thought the absence of Paul would mean empty space. But little by little, I learned that what remained wasn't a void. It was possibility. The invitations came, carefully worded, over email. Erica and Paul joyfully invite you. I stared at the screen for a long time. I'd always wondered how I would feel if the day came. Paul's new forever. Not an echo, but real, public, posted across all the mutual friends' feeds. I realized, to my relief, that most of the grief had already burned itself out. Instead, I felt a twinge of gratitude, sharp and strange, for being held at a distance from the spectacle. Kat watched me as I scrolled through the RSVP options. When I finally looked up, her mouth twisted into that half-sympathetic, half-Medusa grin she only got when she was fiercely on my side. If you're even considering it, I swear I'm throwing your laptop out the window. I laughed. It was the first time since all of this began that the sound didn't catch in my throat. No windows need to die tonight, I promised, and clicked no. Later that night, curled up under Kat's navy throw blanket, I let myself imagine the wedding. Paul at the altar, Erica in white. Everyone clapping and so terrifically happy for them. I tried to conjure up jealousy or rage or crushing self-doubt. There was a time, not that long ago, when I would have surveyed those guests and wondered which, if any of them, would have preferred me. I don't anymore. Instead, I felt the weight of my own arms around my knees, the softness of the blanket, and the sure, quiet rhythm of my own breath. One afternoon, while cleaning out Kat's closet, a side effect of my untethered energy, I found the old memory box Paul and I had kept over the years. It had survived the break, hidden in a heap of odds and ends. Ticket stubs, pressed flowers, photos from a beach trip when we were 23. His handwriting on the back, looping and neat. I stared at the box for a long moment. Some ancient version of myself wanted to burn it or tear it apart, as if destroying these paper tokens would clean out the rot from my past. Instead, I let myself remember. I let myself sit with the good and the bad, the sweetness of new love, the sting of losing it, and all the little choices that shaped our time together. It didn't hurt the way it used to. Those memories were sad, sure, but they belonged to me, just as surely as my heartbreak did. Later, I took the box down to the riverfront and left it on a bench, next to a note that just said, take what you need. When I walked away, I felt lighter, ready, maybe, for nothing and everything. The real shift came unexpectedly, as these things do. Around the start of spring, Kat announced she and Jamie were moving in together and offered to help me hunt for my own place. We spent weeks prowling rental listings and scouring furniture stores, haggling over armchairs and rugs. By the time I signed the lease on a fourth-floor walk-up, I felt a strange, bubbly hope that bordered on joy. The apartment was small, with chipped crown molding and a creaky radiator, but it had 3 massive windows and the kind of morning light that makes everything look possible. I painted the front door teal. Paul would have hated it, called it too bright, and strung up fairy lights on the fire escape. The first night there, I cooked lentil soup from scratch, sat cross-legged on the hardwood floor, and toasted myself with half a glass of cheap red wine. The city's distant thunder echoed through the bricks, and I realized I wasn't lonely. I was alone, but I felt more real than I had in years. Moving forward turned out to mean giving myself small, ordinary mercies. I went to therapy. I started writing again, this time just for myself. Bad poems and little essays. Anything to keep my inner voice alive. Sometimes I would see Paul's name pop up in old group chats, or overhear news about this or that big promotion of his, and pause. But then Annie in therapy would remind me, it's not your business anymore, and that's a good thing. Sometimes healing wasn't about finding closure in the cinematic sense. There were no grand confrontations, dramatic monologues, or Facebook apology essays. Instead, it was sticking around long enough to let the absence fill with new friends, new routines, and new ways of measuring self-worth. Kat and Jamie threw a tiny housewarming the first weekend I moved in. There were cheap paper lanterns, Jamie's dreadful houseplants, and too much homemade guac. Every person in that room, each one who had checked in, comforted me, driven me home, or made me laugh, was a signpost. I danced next to Kat to a ridiculous playlist, arms stretched wide, and let myself feel entirely present for the first time in so long. Eventually, months after his engagement, Paul texted. Not a grand declaration, just a brief, unassuming message. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're happy. I looked at the message and realized, truly realized, I no longer needed his apology. My fingers hovered over the screen. I typed a reply, erased it, tried a few more times before finally settling on just 2 words. I am. I set the phone down and let the sun spill over the windowsill, content, unburdened. Paul was someone I used to know. Part of my life's patchwork, but not the whole fabric. That night, I slept deeper than I had in months. Now, on the edge of 30, my life looks nothing like the blueprint I made with Paul. That's the point. I still don't know exactly what's next. Maybe a rescue dog, maybe travel, maybe just more nights with Kat and my new circle of friends, laughing until I cry. Some days there's a pang, a ghost of what if. But I know now that forever is not something you anchor yourself to. It's something you grow into, day by day, with people who meet you where you are, not who they need you to be. Paul loved me as much as he was able. I loved him as much as I could, until the map of us ran off the edge of the world we'd planned together. It was never about whether I was enough, or whether Erica was better, or whether he had meant his promises. The only forever I can depend on is the one I build with myself. And for the first time, that feels like more than enough. TLDR, my long-term boyfriend promised me forever while building a new life with someone else. The betrayal felt like it would break me, but in the end, it made me reclaim my own sense of home, purpose, and possibility. If you're doubting yourself because someone changed their mind about you, trust that you're worthy of your own kind of forever, and that the right people will meet you at the front door, not at your breaking point. Thank you for listening. If you're standing on the other side of betrayal, just know the world is wider and you are stronger than you think.